Hi everyone, this is the Recreate Reality podcast with Michael and Teresa. Today we are talking the Traitors US Season 3. So I'm really excited about this. We're going to do a 3 episode, so it's going to be episodes 1, 2 and 3. And for anyone who hasn't watched the show, there are massive spoilers ahead. So in today's episode, LA's favorite reality stars descend on Scotland. Will it be Cluedo or Clueless? If you've missed episodes, you can catch all the action on your local streaming services. The Traitors US Season 3, Episodes 1, 2 and 3, breakdown coming up.
Yeah, excited to be back. Hope everyone had a good holidays.
Yes, and had a happy new year. It's like 2025.
2025, and we're ready for Traitors Season 3. I'm excited.
New year, new shows, new seasons.
Yeah, it's going to be a big year of reality TV this year, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so.
We've got Traitors, yes. We've got, Australia v World, Australia Brawn v Brains Season 2. Traitors UK is also running at the same time as this. So we're actually watching 2 Traitors shows simultaneously. And they're being released at the same time.
Yeah, they've been released at the same time. Well, I think they also kind of like film at the same time. One after the other, because a lot of the obstacles, they look the same. Yeah, so I think it's interesting. Well, to be honest, we started on UK Traitors first, and then US the season came out. So we kind of stopped watching UK because we're like, okay, we're starting to get all the players confused. So maybe we'll just stick to one. So we are just going to focus on the US season.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see the similarities and the differences because both shows are concurrent and parallel in a way. As you're saying, I think they may be filmed in very close time to each other because the setups are very same, the challenges are in the same order, so it would behoove them to save on budget to film them together, or at least close, to save on money so they don't have to reset up stuff. And it's interesting the differences. I mean, UK, it's a bunch of normal, everyday people. The US, what we get this time is, wow, reality stars are a different breed.
They are. So I think we've got players from like the Desperate Housewives, we've got Survivor, we've got quite
Bachelor,
a mix of
Big
like
Brother.
Different shows, and I feel like it's quite interesting, like the way they play. It feels very concurrent, kind of like to the shows that they've played before, like the Mind State.
It's almost like the show they graduate from defines the way they live, play, and are seen. But we'll get into lots of that stuff later. I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the Traitors, what it was, because let's intro it from the top.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't watched the show before.
Yeah, let's get back to basics. Okay, the Traitors is your classic reality show that is based on your murder manor mystery type show. So think Gosford Park, think
I think there's a lot of those kind of like games that people can play, like they rent and they give characters to everyone and then you have to like decide at the end of the night who you think the killer is. Yeah, they're kind of like murder mystery. We love murder mystery. We watch a lot of thrillers.
Clouseau, all those kind of those kind of murder mysteries are a lot of fun, especially when they're set in grand, opulent settings and when
with a bit of like a gothic, twist to it.
Yeah, it's always fun when the murderer and the victims are stuck in one place overnight over a certain amount of time, and the killer is amongst the suspects. You know what I mean? And you have to find the killer within a certain amount of time. This brings that concept, that thematic film idea to life, and that's why I think we really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like a real life, night at the Orient Express or something. Yeah,
exactly. Murder on the Orient Express. Yeah, and so this isn't the first Traitors we've seen. We've seen a few UK ones.
Yes, we've seen, You've watched the New Zealand one. I haven't watched that. I heard that was very good.
New Zealand is very good.
Yeah.
Australia is pretty good.
Yeah, so the first one I think we watched was Australia.
But that's cancelled now.
That's cancelled, I know. They had a great ending for the last season. I really loved it. I won't spoil it.
But a lot of people didn't like season 2 with that ending, and so Australian Traitors got cancelled, presumably because of the ending. But if you want to see an example of really good Traitors faithful gameplay, check out Traitors NZ. Those people are smart. No wonder they have the best post-production film and advertising agencies in the world, and a lot of good writers and actors too. NZ, you guys are smart. They find the Traitors within a few days, and they literally have to keep on replacing them out of the faithful because they keep on finding them with amazing skill. Let's wait to see how these LA reality stars go. I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah, I feel like with reality stars, it's a little bit different because a lot of times I feel like they're maybe not really trying to find out who the traitors are, but trying to like kind of like figure out alliances. Like, okay, who's in my alliance, who's not. They kind of like group together according to the shows that they're in.
Yeah, and as you said, they're not necessarily focused on, perhaps, my presumption is they're not necessarily focused on finding the murderer or winning the money. They have money, they have fame. What they want is to build their image, their brand.
Create some
drama. It's a performance for them, right?
So it is.
Like, that's my presumption. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but you know what? The most exciting thing about this season is, for me, the Survivor stars that we get to see. I have two of my all-time favorite players.
He's got a bit of a fangirl thing going on.
Yeah, fanboy thing. Like, the two of the Mount Rushmores. Like, last season we had Parvati and Sandra, two of the queens of Survivor. This season we get two kings.
Yeah.
We get Tony Vlachos and my all-time favorite, Boston Rob. Like, Tony Vlachos, you broke my heart when you got rid of, when you beat Wu. But Wu, you were a sucker. But Boston Rob is the man. Teresa doesn't know as much about my Boston Rob fanship.
No, he goes on about it. You know, I just listen.
One of the great Survivor players, and I can't wait to see how he does on this show, whether he's a traitor or a faithful. I feel like both of them are going to be incredible. They're just, you know, two working class superstar reality guys from the East Coast, Italian Americans, who are just so street smart, man. This is like the Pacino De Niro of reality. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
What are you talking about?
Though, how do you think, I mean, like, because you know that they're superstars, because the thing I find, like, with, like, people who've come back onto, like, shows, their reputations kind of, like, precede them.
Exactly.
And you can just kind of get an idea of them, even though if it's the wrong idea. Exactly. In this case, like, say, you know, if they have got, like, that killer's instinct, people are going to be, like, just watching them.
Yeah.
Even though it might not be true, they might not be a traitor.
It's really hard for these players to play anything because people just either eliminate them or are wary of them or just, you know, they just can't get their game started.
Okay.
In a lot of modern reality shows, we've seen that with Boston Rob in Winners at War, Deal or No Deal. They get snuffed before they even start because of their reputation, and people think on two fronts. Look, they've won a lot of money already from
let's just kick them out,
so
whatever.
Let's get rid of them. They don't need it. And two, they're super smart because I've seen them lie, cheat, and trick so many other people. I'm not going to be the sucker.
Yeah.
Even when they're telling the truth, people don't trust them.
Yeah.
As we hear Tony, you know, endear himself later on.
Yeah,
so it's a tough thing.
Okay, so we've got Boston Rob, we've got Tony Vlachos. Okay, besides that, like, first impressions, who do you think, like, you know, kind of like stands out?
Okay, Bob from RuPaul's Drag Race. Wow, he stands out. He looks to be about a 7-foot black man in a blue peacock dress. He's very dominant and physically and visually.
Yeah.
He stands out.
Yeah, I think that first outfit. And okay, so this is the one thing I do like about the US traders is that all of them are dressed very fabulously.
Yeah, we're going to have a segment, I think, on who's the best dressed at each, like, round table or breakfast table. Yeah. It's a run walk. It's a catwalk.
Yeah.
For these guys. This is not the UK version where they're all wearing hoodies and, you know,
just
jumpers.
Jeans or, you know. No.
Do you think like each of these people brought over a stylist from?
Yeah, of course. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. I think because all of them are like, you know, like they are just done up well. We'll talk about that later. Okay, let's just go back to first impressions. Okay.
First of all, we have the second most handsome Efron in the world. Dylan Efron.
Yes, did not know he had a brother.
Didn't have a brother. He has the Efron abs, the Efron dreamy blue eyes.
Yeah, he does.
We'll see how he goes. I've never heard of him, but he's described as Zac Efron's brother, which...
Yeah, well, apparently I think he's a producer and he's done like a couple of documentary series.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it will be very interesting. For me, I've kind of like, okay, so there's a royal there.
Mountbatten.
Yeah, a Mountbatten.
He's
so he is like the second cousin of the king. So, you know, he knows Harry and Meghan.
Wow.
Well, like,
I don't know how well he'll go. America being a democratic creditocracy. You know what I've found in these reality shows, right? It's not necessarily about personality. Often it's about class.
Yeah.
You know, people will clash based on education and class. And I feel like Americans, when they run into a royal, they're just going to be like, you're not my lord, Ivor. Like, in every day, Ivor Mountbatten is addressed as a lord. Ivor Mountbatten. He has lord before his name. These Americans aren't going to give him that. And if anything, I think they're going to be doubly suspicious of a posh Brit with a posh accent and a fancy name and titles.
You know, who probably was studied and eaten.
Yeah, who has been born into greatness. Whereas each of these people...
They have to, like, work it.
Yeah, a little bit. You know what I mean? It'll be interesting. It is truly a clash of modern royalty versus old world royalty, right? Celebrity versus royalty. So
that's true.
My eyes on Mountbatten. There's that, but there's also the fact that he's the first openly gay royal.
Yeah.
He's married to a man. And so maybe he's got a little bit of that, you know, Hollywood in him too.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, to be the, you know, to be on a reality show, I think you've got to have a little bit of that performance streak in you, because most royals, they tend to, well, I think they prefer to keep it very low key and instead focus on, like, charity work. Because when you're too flashy, I think it can maybe work against you. Like, I mean, as we've seen, like, with Harry and Meghan, like, you know, yeah, just because you've been, like, born into, like, so much.
Yeah.
You know, it can very, like, quickly set, like, you know, the eyes of envy on you.
Exactly. And we've seen in the past, other seasons, like, there was a guy from the House of Lords last year. He didn't do well. So just based on historical precedent for the show, the Brits don't do well when blend into American reality, but we'll give them a chance. Other people on the show, so we're spending a long time on Mr. Mountbatten with the famous name. Who else stands out? Sam Asghari, Britney Spears' ex.
Yep, I've never heard of him, but I do know, I've heard of Kevin Federline.
Yeah,
I haven't heard of him. Yeah.
She has a lot of exes though, Britney. So you know. Good on her. I've never seen this one, but he's a good-looking dude.
Yeah. Carolyn Wicker, she's from Survivor.
I know of her.
I don't know her, but I think I just noticed her because she reminds me kind of a little bit like Amy Winehouse, but, like, you know, with blonde hair. I know, yeah.
Well, she does drug and alcohol counseling. She's a season 44 Survivor player. She's known to be quite iconic. I've seen a lot of memes on her, people sort of picking on her because she's different.
She's different, yeah.
She's a different bird.
Yeah,
okay, but I'm a fan of her. She tells it how it is. You know what I mean? She's the kind of person who's a straight shooter who will just tell you how it is. If you got something in your teeth, she'll tell you straight away. You can literally see every single thought, expression, and idea written across her face as she has it.
Yeah, I've to be honest, like, you know, I've watched, like, the episodes. I found myself very entertained by her. I actually really like her. I think maybe it's just, like, you know, she comes across as very different, like, you know, to the other women in the show. Like, they're all housewives. They're very poised. She's kind of like the opposite. You know, she's kind of like just you know, what's going on, like a deer in the headlights, kind of like, you know.
But that's why I find her so lovable.
Yeah, she's very endearing.
There's no pretentiousness to her. Yeah. Look, I mean, we could go through each of them, but they're all very attractive, very well put together, very good-looking people. This is a very good-looking cast.
Yeah.
I don't know much of them. I recognise Bob Harper from The Biggest Loser. I saw an episode back in the day. He's lost a little bit of weight, but he looks really well put together as well.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the cast in terms of sticking out. Anybody else that sort of sticks out to you?
No, I think that's probably it. So I guess we'll go on to, okay, so all these stars, they are in the cast. They arrive at the castle, and the opening scene at the castle is actually quite dramatic. You've got a lot of cloaked men in masks just like standing there, like, very kind of like eyes wide shut.
Very eyes wide shut. I was going to say that.
Like an orgy is about to happen or something.
Very creepy.
Yeah.
This is like, okay.
Everyone's nice getting out of their cars, and people are like saying hi. They're like, "Oh my god," you know. So.
Oh yeah, the Britney and Danielle thing.
Yes, that's it. That's what I was coming into.
Sorry, yeah, you go.
Yeah.
You go.
So okay, so both Danielle and Britney, they are both contestants on Big Brother. So apparently there was a beef between them where Britney had voted out Danielle, and she wasn't happy about that.
I know, and it's like, I looked this up. This happened 16 years ago. Like, I reckon this is a little bit of drama for show.
Yeah, because Danielle, she was like crying about it.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought maybe it just happened, I don't know, recently, you know, but when you hear it's like 16 years ago, you're like, man, you know.
And then Brittany, like all like famous, privileged, entitled women, manages to make it her. Danielle suffering about herself. She's like, your pain caused me so much pain, and that was painful for me. Wow, these people are masters at emotional.
I gotta learn that when we argue. Like, like, you know.
These people are emotional masters. Anyway, so Scottish Highlands, the first thing we hear is Carolyn Wigger's voice going over the Scottish Highlands. We see one thing that we didn't see is Rob amongst the cars, but that
he clocked it straight away, like, you know.
Yeah, because I was looking for him. Like, where's Rob? Where's my Rob? The Survivor players all find each other and hug each other. We're like, we're great, I love you. I'm a fan of you. So it looks like the housewives are going to click together, the survivors are going to click together, the pretty young girls are going to click together. Something like that. Maybe the Bobs might hang. It seems like that everyone hangs out by their network, their show.
Yeah, I think indeed in the last season, the US one, they kind of went by shows as well. I think it was like Bravo versus the Gamers or versus the Housewives. So there's this kind of like cliquey thing that happens already. Whereas like maybe in the UK, no one knows each other. No. So they're all civilians. Yeah. They you know, they're all on their own. But I think in this, because people do know each other, so you know they already start to form an alliance.
Yeah. And Boston Rob. We've been waiting for him. We're like, where is he? Where is he? Was this, you know, were they hiding him? Is he not going to be on the show? Were they just taunting me and using me to click it? He gets revealed as sort of a ring-in. So on the UK version, what they did is they asked 3 people to leave on the trains. Here they bring him in, and Alan asks an impossible choice. He says something like, whoever comes and shakes my hand will bring Rob into the game, and then you have an opportunity to get rid of one of these people here. This is... No one's going to take this. Would you ever take this deal? This seems like too much of a trap, no?
Not at the first go, but I actually thought Caroline was about to, because she was like...
Caroline looks like she always looks like she's about to do everything. But yeah. Go.
Yeah, because she was like... Okay, are you doing it? Yeah. Should I do it? You know, like, kind of like sussing everyone. So no one does it. So unfortunately, it seems like he didn't make it onto the show.
But you know, there's always going to be a catch with something like this. First of all, you know, it's a trap because you mark yourself as being really gamey, trying really hard. You get rid of someone, which ostracizes you. And they're not going to send a celebrity all the way over from LA to do a show just to send them all the way back. So you know they're going to lurk around and reappear somewhere. So it just puts a real mark on you to get, to have revenge sought on you. So vengeance. So always a dangerous move. No one falls for the bait, and Rob is pissed and he's like, revenge is he walks away basically. But I have a feeling we're going to see him again.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's just too much of a big. Of a big name to not have on the show. And
look, we've seen all 3 episodes. We know he comes back. But, okay.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we get the interview process.
Okay. So I just want to ask you, if you were being interviewed, if you were on the show, would you be a traitor? And why?
I would play it strategically. I would say I don't want to be a traitor at the beginning, because I think it's really hard, historically, to try and win this show as a traitor from the very beginning. I think only Siri has been able to do it that I can remember. I might be wrong. Correct me, please. Leave a comment. But I think the best way to play this game is as a traitor recruited about halfway through.
Kind of like halfway. So you already have like that faithful vibe.
Yeah, you built trust. Yeah. Maybe you've gotten a couple traitors out. You've built alliances and comrades who have belief in you, and then you get recruited. That's the best way to win this money, I think. So that's what I would be going. So I'd be telling Alan, no, maybe later. Let's do this, because to win it from start to finish is so hard.
It's really hard. I mean, like, Siri did so well.
Yeah, she's different.
She did not have she didn't have any suspicion on her at all. No. I think not once did anyone put down her name. No. And like she made it all the way through the end, like with like 2 other faithfuls who thought that they were all faithful.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes Siri the GOAT, one of the greatest of all time. reality show players. She's so shrewd, smart, deft, socially skilled,
Yeah.
cunning.
Yeah.
She's got it all.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, I think I would definitely like to be a traitor. I would also be kind of like suspicious of anyone who says they don't want to be a traitor because, come on, like, you know, if you don't want to be a traitor, why are you on this show?
Like Tony.
So whenever someone says, no, I don't want to be, like, you know, a traitor.
Yeah. Well, that's what Carolyn
like,
clocks Tony as, remember?
It's
Like,
oh, bullshit.
yeah, bullshit. Because Tony's like, hey, everybody, you know, I want to be a faithful. I want to help them find the faithfuls. And Carolyn's like, bullshit. I know you, man. You're a Survivor 2-time winner. Bullshit, which I thought was fantastic. Because even Tony's like, talk to somebody, say something. He's got that Brooklyn accent that I love, the Jersey Italian.
Yeah.
But he's just straight away, just like, I can't get out of my own rep. And Caroline knows him so well and just bullshit. So, yeah, I would go with being a faithful. You would go with being...
I think either way, I would definitely like to try being a traitor. So whether it's like the first go or like being recruited, I definitely want to try being a
it'd
traitor.
Be scary. The anxiety. What I find funny is Tony says to Alan, "Your Highness, can I please be a traitor?" He assumes because he's British that he's a royal. He's like, "Oh, Your Worship, can I please be Your Highness, Your Lord? Can I please be a traitor?"
I'm sure Alan liked that very much.
Tony's hilarious.
So I guess we go to the round table. And Alan goes around deciding who the traitors are, and we find out that they are Caroline, Bob the drag queen, and Danielle. How do you feel about like these three picks?
Wow, I think these are an interesting mix. I think you have in Carolyn and Bob two massive personalities, almost so big they hide in plain sight, and that will be either a detriment or a disguise to their games. Danielle I don't know much of, but she seems kind of smart and slick and well put together, well dressed. She seems intelligent. I don't know. We'll see how she goes. I don't know much about her. So Carolyn I know is extra all the time, and Bob looks the same.
Yeah, Bob I
he's
think
a drag
is very
queen,
extra.
so he's gonna be extra. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. They are very different. Very different.
This is different. In the past, we've seen the people that are chosen to be traitors are those that are able to blend into the background and be somewhat invisible.
Yeah, like even a little bit quiet.
Even
I think.
quiet,
yeah.
You know, and more not alpha personalities, more even, you know,
beta,
introspective and.
But then again, I think you've got a cast of reality stars.
That's
like,
right,
if you were quiet, you wouldn't be a reality star in the first place.
That's true.
You
Everyone
know?
is so loud.
Everyone is very loud. Everyone is very opinionated.
They don't shut up.
Yeah.
Gosh, imagine trying to get a word in with these people.
Yeah.
But I think they chose the two loudest of them all, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I think in the past there haven't been that many loud personalities that have been picked. So this would be an interesting thing. And like you said, like say with Caroline and Bob, you know, if they were suddenly to become very quiet, that would actually be suspicious. Yeah.
I'm glad that Tony wasn't chosen as a traitor because he would be just so obvious.
Yeah.
And any other survivors, like Jeremy and Tony, I feel like are just such obvious traitors. So I'm glad they weren't. I think if I was Alan, I would have maybe chosen someone like Bob Harper. And maybe like Ciara Miller. Just two sort of people that you wouldn't assume at all. I think they would make great traitors. They can blend it in the background. And mainly due to the edit, I didn't really notice them sticking out too much these first three episodes.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I'm thinking of them.
Okay. Well, speaking about sticking out, so once the blindfolds have taken off.
Oh, there's also the twist, Teresa.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the twist.
So there is that twist with the new season, so both in the UK and US, is that when it comes to the final, traitors no longer reveal themselves.
Yeah, so that's probably like the final 5 or 6 or so. Which is good because I think the reason why we want to talk about that is because a lot of the times in the past couple of seasons, they've used deductive reasoning, mathematics to basically figure out how many traitors are left. So, like, okay, they always assume there's either 3 or 4. We've gotten out 2. There must be 1 left. And that has enabled them to keep on playing or stop playing at a certain point for the faithfuls. without knowing now, I think it leaves the suspense up until the very end.
Yeah, so I think you really have to try very hard to deduce.
Yeah.
Whereas like before, you can kind of like maybe get by a bit. Okay, I think they kind of like all voted out. But now it's like, oh my God, you can't?
You can't.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting. I mean, I don't know. That's how I assume it's going to turn out. But it could really turn out like, very different.
Yeah, you never know. I think it'll give the traitors an advantage. But we'll see.
Do you think that's better? Because I kind of feel like the traitors already have a huge advantage.
They have a huge advantage.
Yeah,
they have every advantage in this game.
Yeah, they do.
Other than the pressure of having to be a traitor, though. That's the detriment, is that it's freaking hard.
It's hard, yeah.
So they kind of deserve those advantages.
Yeah, so I kind of like feel with these, it gives, like, it just gives a disadvantage to the faithful. Yeah, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. I'm excited. I mean, it's something new.
New idea. Cancel. New idea. Okay, I had an idea. Okay, it's not a new idea. It's an old idea that I had when we were talking about the New Zealand show ages ago, right? What if there was, right, an alternative card that we were able to see online of each episode, right, where we don't know who the traitors are at all.
Yeah.
And the audience doesn't know whatsoever, right? And we're left to play along with the faithful. And at the end of each episode, maybe there's an online app and we click along and it tells us if we're right or wrong, and the audience can play along or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that would be fascinating to watch this show and to not know who the traitors are.
Yeah, I think so. And then everyone is like left to guess. It's a bit like those like the murder thriller shows.
Yeah,
because like the reason we like watching it is because you don't know who, like a crime's been committed, but you don't know who the perpetrator is, and that's why you watch it all the way to the end to find out.
I think that'd be a great edit. I think the show should consider having an alternate timeline edit where they release 2 episodes of each episode. I know they'd have to employ a lot more editors, but where you don't reveal anything about who anyone is and you just have suspicion going everywhere. Fascinating.
Yeah, that would be really good.
And then I think people would re-watch the show after they've watched it once to see how the traitors put it together. Do you know what I mean? That could work.
That could work.
Okay. Peacock, get in touch with me. Let me pitch it to you. By the way, Tom has crazy eyes.
Oh, yeah. So this was like right after everyone's taken off their blindfolds, and Tom is just like...
He has some intensity to him, Is it his brow? Is it his face? He says later on, it's just my face.
I think the eyes are definitely like they kind of like don't blink or something.
Yeah. He gets later described as having Spock eye. He just eyeballs these women down. Like, dude undresses people with his eyes. He's scary. No, he doesn't undress them. He does worse than that. He's intense. He's intense.
Very intense.
I've never heard of the guy, but he's intense.
It's like he had like 20 coffees or something,
he's
or
from
something
a show
else.
called Vanderpump Rules.
Maybe they're all like that. I don't know. Okay, so I guess we move on to the boat challenge.
Right?
Yeah. So this is a challenge where everyone goes onto like a Viking boat, and you have to collect money and fuel and set the shield platform alight. But in the process, you have to sacrifice players. So, yeah, what did we think about that?
Okay, let's skip over the challenge because it's just a bunch of people rowing. But like, it's one of those things where it's interesting because it poses a real hierarchy question to the cast. It makes them force to choose a hierarchy, and we see that hierarchy get quickly formed. Housewives at the bottom and everyone else at the top. But I think also it shows that maybe the housewives aren't so adept at gaming. They want to make everyone happy because it's a two-handed sword, a two-edged blade, right? Like, you get off onto those platforms, you make yourself vulnerable, to get voted out. But on the other hand, you make yourself look selfless and more like a devoted faithful.
Yeah. Well, so if you were on the boat, would you?
Heck no.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay, because I would probably put my hand out.
Okay.
If I was a faithful or if I was a traitor, I think I would probably put my hand out.
I would look for every opportunity I could to get a shield and to be protected, because that allows you to play onto the game longer, and if you're exposed, that's it. Like, I think we've also seen in the past traders blend themselves into these kind of situations to make themselves look more faithful. So sometimes, even though you look trying to be selfless, can come across being suspicious, which is the
the
great contradiction of this show, is that no matter what you do, whether it's faithful or traitorous, any attention seems to be somewhat negative.
Yeah, fair enough.
Show.
I guess for me, because I think I would probably put my hand up, just because maybe I think I'm used to it, because I know like most people wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So I feel like, okay, you know what, no one's going to do it. We're kind of like stuck. No one's going to go forward.
Yeah, that's fair
I
enough.
would kind of like put myself forward. I would also probably think, okay, like, you know, if we have to row a boat, like, you know, maybe guys tend to be better. I assume they,
which is
like,
the
you know,
difficult part about this challenge.
Yeah, which is the
too.
difficult part, you know.
And Bob calls them out about this. Like, if we go along this line of thinking, as he says to Mountbatten, Mountbatten says, look, we need big, strong lads. Okay, Mountbatten wants a boat full of big, strong lads, guys. Big surprise.
But the truth is, if I was on a boat, I would want a boat full of big, strong lads too.
So does my wife. Okay,
well,
yeah, but you know, okay. It's
well, you want what, like 8 of me to be like rowing?
I think anyone can get this boat across the water. Honestly, I don't think it's as difficult as it seems. I think 4 people can get this boat across the water. But I get what you're saying, that it helps to just get it across fast. But the negative is that all these women are now sacrificed. They're all housewives. They're non-gamers, and that's exactly what we got. We got Robin, Ayan, Dolores, Dorinda. Who's that? Bob and Sam? I can't read my own handwriting. Who was Bob with? Sam. Yeah, Sam Asghari. And Bob and Danielle. So it's... Yeah. Interesting that we've got 2 traitors amongst the 8. So a quarter of them are traitors.
So that's the thing I want to point out. So, yeah, if I was a traitor, okay, faithful or traitor, I think it would still be a good idea. I wouldn't want to be the first one to put my hand up, because I think that's too ego. That's trying too hard. But I would maybe wait until someone else has done. And I feel like this is what Danielle and Bob, the drag queen, they've actually done. They're like, okay, some people have gone off already. Yeah. It doesn't look as sus.
Smart.
Whereas like it will look very sus if we're the first ones to put our hand up.
Yeah, that's smart. And I'm surprised that no one later brought that up at the round table to say, hey, I think one of those 8 people that got onto the platforms is a traitor. Because A, 2 of the people are dead, so now it's 1 out of 6 chance. And secondly, it's a real opportunity for a traitor to appear faithful, but to know that you're completely safe.
Actually, I think Dylan did bring it up.
Did he?
Yeah, so that's why I think he was targeting like you know, Robin and Bob and, you know,
He should have made more of that point, I think.
Yeah.
And he should have doubled that up. But we'll talk about
that, because that happens, I think, in the, you know, 2nd or 3rd episode.
Yeah. But Bob stands up and he fights for the...
Okay, I like that about Bob. So I think that was actually very good, because otherwise it can be a little bit of... so while I don't mind putting myself up, not everyone is going to. And sometimes it can be a little bit of like a peer pressure thing, where women maybe feel like they have to put themselves up.
And that sucks. Because
that sucks, yeah.
Then you're going to have a bunch of women who are first killed and all the men are saved. That's not fair. They're going to get this boat back no matter what, with 10 people rowing it left. You know what I mean? Even if 10 of them are women, they're going to be fine. Yeah. So it was so unfair that they just kept on throwing women off. And thankfully, Bob called him off. That was smart on his part too. I think he at once calls them out for it, but then also sacrifices himself. So he makes himself doubly endeared to people.
Especially to the housewives.
To the housewives. He's built a very strong insulation now. Like, people just like him, trust him, respect him now. He's commanding that boat in more ways than one. Heave ho. And then, okay, let's jump ahead to them getting home. Yeah. And so what we see is they all go home, they're having lunch, they have time to have a shower, get changed, have their stylist redo their makeup and their outfits. And only then did the platformed people return. So a good couple of hours.
Yeah, a good couple of hours, you know. And you can imagine like how cold, windy, hungry, you know, they're going to be.
Half the food is gone. All the chicken skewers are gone.
Not half. I think like almost all of it. Yeah.
They didn't leave any chicken skewers.
They didn't.
And the funny thing is, they're saying to each other, "There's seconds, by the way, guys. There's leftovers. Help yourself to seconds." But that means that the other crew don't get firsts.
Okay, so and then
so we see this massive
brouhaha, which I think where you have like Bob and Dorinda, they are really pissed off. And I think Bob is like summoning the whole group, trying to get the attention of everyone.
He's steamed, he storms around, he's stomping his high heels all over the house.
Yeah.
Dorinda says, all I wanted was to have a nice hot meal and they didn't even wait for it. I can feel their frustration, their pain. It makes, and secondly, it makes you look more faithful too if you're upset about being exposed like this.
Well, I mean, didn't Danielle just walk off and cry again?
Yeah.
That girl is very good at crying. Like, she can just turn it on.
I know. She's like Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
Julia Roberts. And all we have is everybody else saying, yeah, but we feel really bad.
Yeah. Okay, would you... Okay, to be honest, I think... Okay, I get that the fact that they're mad. But I think it's really hard when you come back from something and there's food waiting for you. Like I would feel very hard pressed to not take them. Yeah, to wait because you don't know how long it's going to take. They probably just thought that they were going to come back straight away, but it just took a lot longer.
They're both probably in the right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's fair enough that, especially on film sets and reality shows, there's a craft table and people tend to just eat whenever they can because you all have different shooting times.
Yeah.
They all go into interview at different times. So it's not like let's eat together on a film set. And I speak from experience, you eat when you can and you work all other times. And so they're kind of used to that behavior. So, and on the other hand, these guys that have come back from sitting on, a plank of wood in the cold of Scotland for the last 2 hours, I reckon they held them out for a bit longer to piss them off more too.
Well, isn't it interesting? Because we've actually watched, I think, the first couple of episodes of UK. There was no fuss made.
They were a little bit pissed.
But nothing like what they had at the,
These
in the
people
US
are
version.
drama queens, man. Like, you guys are such drama. And they're good at it too. It seems like they can all cry on demand, make it about the... Anyway, they get quite dramatic. But,
it was very
dramatic. I think this is... Okay, let's talk more about gameplay. I think this shows... Sometimes they forget what show they're on, I feel like. Because the more dramatic you act, the more of a target that you put on yourself, as I said before, the more attention that you draw to yourself to either get murdered or banished. And I feel like sometimes... I think in this example, both Bob and Dorinda sort of were playing like they were Desperate Housewives. And they forget a little bit that they were playing the Traitors. And I think Mountbatten clocks that.
Yeah.
Tom clocks that. Jeremy clocks that and says, look, this whole scene makes you look a little bit suspicious. We're just looking at you now. We weren't looking at anybody before, but now suddenly everyone's looking at you, whether you're talking or crying. And that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, but isn't that part of what being a housewife is? You're meant to make a big fuss over something very, very little.
That's my point. Is that they're forgetting what show they're on, maybe, and they're not playing the game of the traitors. But you can't help what you are. I guess they are Desperate Housewives.
Well, it does bring a lot of drama and entertainment to the show.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really fascinated to see how it blends. Because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't on this, especially early goings on the Traitors. I feel like they're just lost. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what you do, if you draw attention to yourself in a good way, bad way, hunting or being hunted, you're going to get clocked. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, okay, so just before we go on to the next point, I just want to point out, so with Dorinda, because I think Ivor was questioning, well, it does seem suspicious that you're bringing this up. Because you could be a suspect, a traitor, who put themselves up to appear more faithful. But Dorinda was like, oh, well, no, it's because I'm a housewife. I've got that mama bear instinct, protective, sacrifice, people who sacrifice themselves. So, okay, well, that can also be true. Like, the fact that there's 4 housewives, in the very, as the first 4 to be, sacrifice themselves, maybe they just don't really like rowing. It's kind of
exactly.
I mean, can you actually really imagine them rolling? Rowing, they're going to, break off their nails and,
exactly. This is not what Desperate Housewives do.
They don't do that.
It's funny that she calls herself, as a Desperate Housewife, a mama bear. I don't think anybody thinks of the Desperate Housewives of LA as being mama bears. I think they think they're just down Rodeo Drive shopping for new throws and ottomans every other day. But funny she says that. But this is Dorinda Medley. She says that she used to spend every weekend in Scotland with her first husband. So
and that she's got a stuffed peacock on her wall or something.
She has a different perspective.
She has a very different
and she's not even that impressed by the castle. She's like, oh yeah, this is alright. For a manor, it's okay. These people, man, they're on a different galaxy. And so we get to Traitor Tower and a big reveal, right? And
yes.
the three traitors get to see each other. The chemistry doesn't seem great.
Well, I guess that brings us back to where we've said there's quite a lot of like big personalities.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to clash. Cause
yeah, who do you think is going to clash with who?
I think they're all going to clash with Carolyn. Yeah, I think Bob is going to clash with Carolyn, and I think Danielle's going to clash with Carolyn. I think a lot of people, as I saw in Survivor, tend to clash with Carolyn. It's such a shame because she is lovely, but they just don't listen to her, and a lot of people discredit her, I feel like, in life and on these reality shows. And she says it herself later on. She doesn't feel heard, which is sad because she's a counsellor, a drug and alcohol counsellor, and so she spends her life listening to other people and helping other people. But when it comes to herself, I feel like a lot of herself doesn't get validated. And you hear people just talking over her a lot in these next couple of episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, okay, on the contrary, she also discredits other people without listening to them.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe it's a bit of like, because she's kind of a little bit, like, you know, like jittery. Maybe she doesn't listen first, because sometimes I think if she actually listened to people and sat down, like, you know, people will be more open to it.
Because Danielle says, like, we need to plan this carefully. Like, I think what Danielle was trying to do is, let's plan who we're going to be at the end with.
Yeah.
And work backwards.
Yeah.
And Carolyn's like, no, you can't plan one day in ahead. Let's just kill anybody.
Yeah. So she actually, like, you know, firstly really dismisses Danielle's opinion.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard for the two of them to work together. Because actually, I think out of the two, like, Danielle and Caroline are they're almost like, well, they're like complete opposites.
Ebony and Ivory.
Yeah.
What's your style of gameplay? Are you a Danielle? Are you careful, precise, pedantic, or are you a Caroline?
I'm definitely not a Caroline.
Yeah.
Maybe more Danielle.
Yeah, I think I
guess.
am too.
Yeah.
I would be playing more of a Danielle game.
But without the crying, because I cannot do that on cue.
Carolyn. But then again, I think Carolyn's going to go further than them all.
I think so.
Okay, let's talk about that. Who do you think is going to go furthest out of these three traitors? I think Carolyn.
I think Caroline. Yeah.
I think people just don't see her, for better or for worse. She can just run around the castle like a mad woman, and people will go, "Oh, hey, Carolyn."
Yeah,
she doesn't draw suspicion. Yeah. She could have blood on her face, and they'll just go, "Oh, she cut herself, cutting her hair. She's crazy."
Yeah, I think just because you just don't know what to expect, so you just kind of like, okay, then in that case, let's just not have any expectations. Yeah. And like, you know, she's going to do some things that are going to be off center. And even if that might seem traitorous, maybe it's just Carolyn.
She can almost plead the insanity case. It's fascinating. And so they then decide to... Well, before that, we get 3 cages. And we see them setting up the next episode with Rez, Derek, and Rob.
Yes.
And we see Rob coming back, so yeah. Yeah,
so I think that's an interesting turn, which I think is great. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're up to episode 2 now. Shall we jump to episode 2?
Yeah, let's do that.
Was there anything else on episode 1 that we were going to talk about?
No. So we're just going to go to episode 2.
Episode 2.
It's, I guess, like the breakfast table. I guess that's always the first.
Yep, breakfast table, and who would you have killed?
To be honest, I feel like anyone at this stage could be... I think Dorinda was actually quite a nice choice. Okay. Because firstly, I think she was quite outspoken. Yeah. I think the fact that they picked a housewife was a good idea as well, because it just creates a lot of drama and confusion. Yep. I'm
of the school of thinking that you kill someone that is never going to get banished.
Yeah.
And I feel like Dorinda might have been banished, but I don't know any of these people well enough. I probably would have killed someone like Ayan. Yeah, Ayan. Or Sam.
Okay. Yeah.
Someone who I think no one is ever going to look at as a traitor, probably because they don't seem deceptive enough.
Yeah.
So I probably would have gone for the innocents, or someone big and loud, like, who can really move the room and influence the room. Which is why I find it's going to be tough for Bob to stay in this game for a long time because he's a big personality. And people are going to say, what is he still doing here if he's not a traitor?
Yeah, because like any moment he could like just point, he could just point you out and then like go all guns blazing and you will be,
Okay, so we get to the next breakfast table. And once again, they all come out wearing fabulous drips and threads. Everyone's looking amazing. Bob really dresses well. Wow, they must have to bring over so much luggage. Yeah.
Well, I think with that, I actually do think that they all actually have like stylists that come every day because it takes quite a long time to get like your hair and makeup done. Like at least 3 hours. Like all the girls, they have like blowouts. Their makeup is impeccable. Yeah, like you don't just like pack things out of a suitcase because all their clothes. Okay, firstly, there's like no labels as well. I think you're not supposed to have like labels. No. Like you can't have like a Nike brand or like
Louis Vuitton or whatever.
No, you can't do that on like TV.
Yeah.
Secondly, all their clothes, there's no wrinkles, so it all has to be like steamed and like dry clean. It looks like clothes that have been in the wash. They have that rumpled look.
We're used to watching UK Traitors and Survival where people would just come scruffy. Reality, these people look like they're going to the Golden Globes. They look so good.
Like a lot of them are wearing like branded clothes too.
Yeah,
they're not like normal
designer
stuff that you can just find at your normal Westfield shopping centre.
All my clothes designer.
Yeah.
So
okay, so we find out that Dorinda was actually murdered.
Dorinda.
Yeah. And it's actually quite funny because we then see like both Bob and Danielle, they're crying.
This is a sign of traitorous behaviour, I think. Like overdoing the crying is always sus.
Yeah.
At the reactions, especially for someone that you don't know that well.
Yeah, it's only been like one night.
And they're not from. It's not like your best friend, like say, I don't know who's the best friend in here, like the housewives with each other.
Yeah.
They're not even from the same show, the same network, and they're not really dead. They're just going to the other hotel, and then you're crying. Beware the crier. I would, list this as Michael's How to Spot a Traitor, rule number 22. People who overreact at the breakfast table. I think this is one of the big tells, and I think both of them are falling into the rookie mistake. But they can't help it. I think they're both extra. Yeah. Another thing that can't be helped is Tom Sandoval's sweating. My God. We're talking about everyone styling and putting together. The dude is having a tough time with the armpits. Woo! He needs some antiperspirant. That's all I'll say about that. Yeah, because I
think everyone kind of looks very cool. I would imagine Scotland to be quite cold
It's freezing.
Yeah.
It's like 8 degrees weather. This guy runs hot.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he runs very hot, very intense.
Yeah.
Like the Terminator almost.
But that's interesting. What else happens at the breakfast table? Dylan connects to Danielle because they were born in January, and he says, "I like you. You're an Aquarius."
Okay, normally anyone who goes by like star signs, I'm kind of a little bit like
skeptical. Yeah, LA people are
don't
different.
Get me wrong. Like I have friends who are very much into the star sign, but I've kind of like it's not my thing. So yeah, I just find it very hard to imagine that everyone who's born in January or a certain month can all have like the same characteristics or have like the same outcomes.
That's LA.
But that's just me,
What happens next? We see Robin and Wells then have a bit of a conflict where Robin says, "That was smart," and Wells says, "No, that was dumb." And they're discussing Dorinda's elimination. And I guess what they're talking about is whether it's smart to take out a big player to create chaos or whether it's dumb to take out a big player because they're going to eliminate themselves via banishment. Smart or dumb? Or both? What do you think?
I think it's hard to tell. I think it can be both.
It can be both.
Yeah, it can be both. Like you said, Dorinda might have gotten banished.
Yeah.
But she was also a big player and maybe that can be a bit of a threat. I mean, in the end, you have to banish someone, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's too early to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we move on to the cage challenge?
Yeah, and so... I didn't really like this. I thought this was a bit of a waste of time. I felt like Okay, and I'm comparing it directly to the UK version, where on the UK version we saw 3 players who volunteered to get off the show early on, come back, and so what we saw is the cast essentially vote to keep 2 of the 3 people on the show. This time we have Dylan, Wes, and Rob, all 3 people, and essentially there is no cost here. There is no cost, there is no sacrifice, there's no choice. All 3 people are in cages, all 3 people come back, 3 shields are attained, all the money is obtained, and it's just a matter of the order they come down in, and even the order doesn't affect anything. I thought this was a big waste of time. They should have had it so that one person wasn't allowed onto the show.
Yeah, I thought that would have been more interesting. Yeah, but I think because this was all of them, they're all very good at what they do. So it would kind of like defeat the purpose. Like they're probably paid to like appear on the show. And that's
one of the drawbacks of bringing on people who have so much status.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I had to say about this. I just didn't really think it really had much drama. When you don't give the players a choice that has consequence, what's the point of the game? Yeah. You know, you win if you're heads, you win if you're tails, you get what's the point if you're rock, scissors, paper if you win any way you play? Yeah. It doesn't matter what your choice is, you win.
Yeah, I think because with the UK challenge, there's like 3 of them. Well, firstly, they had sacrificed themselves. So I guess the players downstairs, they kind of feel like, oh, we are kind of, in a way, indebted to these people because they sacrificed themselves. And then each of the 3 players, they had to actually pitch themselves and say why I would be valuable to your game.
And that was really interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. And like it felt like there was just really stakes.
Yeah. And they had to really sell themselves. Like, I gave you the most coins. I sacrificed myself for you. There was an exchange of relationship for trust. Or earning trust, which is what you need to have in these challenges. Do you know what I mean? I feel like this challenge missed the mark. Don't do it like this again, guys. Anyway, Boston Rob comes back, and he's a traitor. I don't know about this. I think, it's you even clock it as they're talking about him. The reputation he has people taken aback, just like Tony, where they're just like, wow, Rob, shit. You know, he's a big player. He's got a big reputation. You can't trust him. He's really... So it's going to be tough to avoid his own shadow in a sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and also the fact that they had kind of like gotten him out. Yeah. Well, not let him in, and now he's back. I mean, like, you know, what are the odds that one of the 3 would be a traitor?
Very high. And it's almost obvious to me that he is the traitor because of the way that he was not let onto the show in the first instance. If people are deductive, they'll say, okay, one of the 3 is a traitor who has been introduced to us earlier wearing a traitor mask and a robe. It's a little bit suspicious. I think Boston, if he's going to survive, he has to kill another traitor as quick as he can to remove the smell from him, because it is on him. Very strong. I don't see how he's going to survive, and I really am a big fan of Boston Rob. He is probably responsible for half of the great moments of Survivor, great gameplay, but I just don't see how he's going to get out of this.
Well, Traitor's a very different game from Survivor.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. Because Survivor's all about alliances and physical aptitude and surviving, outplaying, outwitting, right? Traitors it's a social game as well, but it requires a really deft touch at thinking ahead and positioning yourself for the end game. I feel like it's tough.
Okay, well, in that case, let's just stop for a moment and just what are the qualities of a good traitor for you?
I think you need to be exceptionally articulate. I think you need to be able to really represent yourself and speak well and
because I think that too, because to be honest, like, there's always going to be things that you do that will look suspicious to someone else, especially if it's not something that they would do. But again, if that gets pointed out at the round table, how you present yourself, like, do you debate well? Because if you don't debate well, you just come across as guilty looking. And if you can present yourself well enough, then regardless of whether you actually, are a traitor or not, it's going to be a lot easier for you to not get picked, I feel.
You need to also be socially diplomatic.
Yeah.
You need to be an advocate. You need to be subtle. You need to subtly manipulate and move and sway. But most of all, you need to know when people are moving around, to lay still. When people are laying still, when to move. It's a real subtle thing. You need to be like water, like Bruce Lee says. You have to be a chameleon in so many ways, and you have to know when to be aggressive and so on, and attack and to read people. But at the same time, you need to know when to step back as well. And I think a lot of the Survivor players aren't used to this because they're used to using the force of their personalities to build alliances. Right?
Yeah. Like to gather like majority of the vote.
Yeah, because they're leaders. They're natural leaders, perhaps. And that's all good and well for finding traitors, but the problem is the traitors have the ability just to kill the best at will.
Yeah. Whereas the best in Survivor keep on surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also I think with Survivor too, because even though you still have to vote, like how it is with the traitors, if you get off someone, there's no right or wrong. But with the traitors, like literally at the end of the round table, they say, am I a traitor or am I not a traitor? Yeah. So there's this right or wrong thing that is already kind of like grading yourself, against that. Because you're like, okay, how can you be a good traitor or faithful if you've actually voted wrong every time?
That's true.
Whereas that doesn't happen in Survivor. There's no like really right or wrong vote.
So your competence is constantly evaluated.
Yeah.
And the better you are, the more of a threat you are, the more vulnerable you are to get killed by the traitors.
Yeah.
Which is one of the flaws of the show. I've always thought that, sorry to digress, but I've always thought that if you successfully get out a traitor, you should be rewarded by perhaps being immune for a vote or two. And yeah, it's just always been frustrating for me in past seasons that I've seeing the best player, say a Luke for Australian season 2 traitors, players who are really adept at finding traitors just murdered that night.
Yeah.
And that has always been really frustrating because they're right, they're good, but they just get killed. And I don't know enough about game mechanics, but it would be good if there was a way that the people who are the best players are able to be saved, other than just the shield, which seems kind of arbitrary and given away by choice and whim in this and chance. Yeah,
I know. I guess with this game, I guess maybe like every game too, like in Survivor, like often the best players, like towards the end, they will get voted out. Like they often don't make it to like the finals. Yeah.
True.
So it's a hard game, I guess, because there is, on one hand, you are, I guess it's not just meritocracy.
No.
There is always like you can't be at the top, because then if you're at the top, you kind of get knocked down back to the bottom again.
Yeah, true that.
There's this constant rotation order. Okay, anyway, moving on.
Okay, round table, right? That's what's next?
So the round table. So this is the first time they actually banish a person.
It is too. Yeah.
Yes.
And we find out the newbies aren't allowed to vote, speak, or kill, or be killed on this first night, which is good because they're automatically going to be targets. So at least it gives them a chance to settle in and to
kind of
their
like
feet.
gauge, I think, like what the situation is.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they probably don't even know the names yet.
No. Wes, first impressions, I don't know Derek, but Wes seems like a really articulate guy. He's from a show called The Challenge, which I think is a physical reality show.
Yeah.
So he seems like he's a gamer. They're all three of them are gamers. They're from shows that you have to be socially adept. So. But
also, I think still very articulate. Like you said, they're just very good. They think ahead. They can spot kind of like, what are like, like rookie mistakes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got some drama between Tom and Trishelle.
Tom B. Trishelle. So, yeah, this was weird. Tom is like, I clocked you being weird, and Trishelle's like, because you're looking at me weird, you weird man.
Yeah.
And all the women just, peeping Tom. And Tom is just left in shame, like, oh my god, they just totally, like, yeah, they shut him down.
Yeah, he's got a very intense kind of look. And I
Yeah.
think it also doesn't help that I thought it was interesting that Trishelle brought up the fact that she's actually friends with Tom's ex. Because I'm like, well, why bring that up? Like, you know, I don't think it actually,
Weird.
I don't think he's targeting her because of that. But then she feels like maybe it's reason to.
Yeah, they're all masters at this social manipulation and putting blame and shame onto people,
Or
man.
just creating a lot of
And
drama,
creating
which I think, like,
drama.
you know, yeah.
He's just forced to defend himself before he can even say, I think you're a traitor. You know? She's just able to flip it on him and say, you're a creep. You're making me uncomfortable with your toxic male energy, and your freaking eyes and your face. And he's left just cowering within an instant. The poor guy.
Okay, so besides that, what else did you think about the first round table?
I thought, yeah, Bob was kind of extra. He's basically applauding himself. I applaud myself for speaking.
Yeah.
I thought Danielle did a little bit too much. She said, I'm looking at you, but I'm not, to a couple of housewives. She has this housewife theory, I think. And yeah, I think that basically it was a shit show.
Yeah,
It was a mess. It was a mess.
I feel like with roundtables, especially the first one, because there's actually really not very much to go off because everyone's still getting to know each other.
Yeah.
You know, like there's only been one murder. Everyone's just kind of like maybe pointing fingers, but kind of like half-heartedly.
And Danielle does it in a really suspicious way where I started the thought, but then sort of forgot what she said. But she said something like, I'm looking at you, but I don't think you're a traitor, which is the most obvious and aggressive way of saying absolutely nothing, burger. Like, you're basically causing drama and shit stirring shit. And that's exactly what a traitor would do. And I'm amazed that nobody called her out on it at the moment for saying, I'm looking at you, but I don't think you're a traitor. What does that mean? You know, and that's exactly what a traitor would do, because a traitor wants to cause suspicion on somebody, but not pay the repercussions of getting it wrong. Because a traitor knows who the faithful are deep down. And so that's her way of saying, everybody look at her, but if I'm wrong, I did say I didn't think she was a traitor.
Yeah,
but you said to look at her. So I feel like that's a really basic level 1 move by Danielle.
Okay, so you feel like that's a traitorous behaviour?
I thought that was kind of a cue, and no one picked it up. But I have to say, this group is not a very deft group of investigators. I feel like they are looking for social differences and personal differences rather than gameplay. They're looking at, and that tends to happen early game, right? We see this in all versions of the show where people are like, you would make a good traitor, that's why I'm voting for you, which is ridiculous. You know, or you wore red today when everyone else wore blue. They're going along very, very superficial and basic and artificial differences rather than real, who they are rather than what they did.
Yeah, like I think you're a traitor just because, you know, I didn't agree with you.
Yeah, basically that's what they're doing. And so that's what happens with Wells, because Wells had that argument with
Robin.
Robin, yeah. So he came at Robin, and in that room where they're talking about dumb smart move, and it comes down between the two of them actually. Robin gets 4, Ivar gets 4.
Yeah.
And Robin has this satisfied look on her, like, I got you.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that the housewives kind of like think that Ivar was a traitor because I think he had that thing with that drama with Dorinda the day before.
Right.
You know, when, you know, about the food being eaten, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and because Dorinda got, you know, murdered, and then so suddenly it's like fingers are pointing at Ivar, which is kind of like maybe the most likely suspect. It's a bit obvious.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
And they are falling into the traps that the traitors set, which is so obvious. Like, Ivar should be able to say, if I was a traitor, I would not kill that person because it would draw suspicion on me, you numbnut.
Like, say, with Danielle, like, you know, when Caroline had suggested, why don't we kill off Brittany? Danielle's like, no,
Exactly.
that would draw attention onto me.
Exactly.
So the last thing you would want to do is to draw attention to yourself.
Exactly, and that should have been Ivar's defense.
Yeah.
and Wells's defense. The last thing you want to do is draw yes.
Yeah.
This is where being an advocate and being a good, defendant for yourself and defender for yourself is so key. You need to be able to express yourself under pressure at the time without losing your cool.
And it's going to be hard when people are accusing you because you honestly already start to feel very frustrated.
Yeah.
You might react very emotionally.
And how do you prove a negative? Like, how do you prove something? It's like saying, prove that you believe in religion more than me. Do you know what I mean? It's so hard to prove something that like this. But I find it fascinating. And this is why the legal system, why we must get, criminals wrong so much in the legal system, because inherently we are bad judges of character.
And a lot of it is really dependent on how you present yourself.
Yeah, as Malcolm Gladwell says in Blink of an Eye, human beings are really bad at judging people.
Yeah.
We're not as good as we think we are. We think we're very good at telling lies, deception, and so on, but we suck at it. And so this show really brings that to light. Because I've heard about a million times on this show someone say, I'm 1,000% sure. I'm
very good at, at judging people.
I'm a stylist, so I run into people all the time, and that makes me a good judge of traitors.
I know.
I'm a hairdresser, so that makes me... I'm a cop, I'm a... Whatever job they are, people tend to think that they're good at judging.
Yeah.
Like, I work from home, and so I'm very good at judging character.
Yeah.
Like, yo, you're terrible at this.
Well, we all are. We all are.
Yeah, everyone is.
Yeah, everyone is. Yeah.
So Wells goes home.
Yeah.
This sucks,
that
man.
sucks because I think I actually thought he was one of the more capable traitor hunters.
Because he's intelligent, he's articulate. He identified, I think, Danielle could be a suspect, and he just seemed to be sniffing in the right direction.
Yeah.
He didn't clip Danielle, but sorry, but yeah, he just seemed to be sniffing in the right direction. He bonded with Danielle. I saw him with Danielle, and I got the thing wrong, but he's a loss to the game. I think he seems to be,
I think he's very astute.
Yeah.
Whereas I think he didn't try and make very superficial accusations, like with the housewives with Iva, very kind of like first impressions thing. Yeah, so I think he was able to kind of maybe see through the drama, but I think it's just a bit of shame that he got voted off early.
And he does the
the condescending clap.
Sarcastic clap. Well done, you idiots. You got it wrong again.
Okay, so now after the round table, we find out that the 3 newbies have shields to give.
Yep.
And they are given to Jeremy, Dylan, and Tony.
Yep. 2 survivor players. And
Dylan, well, I think he's currently probably one of the smarter ones. One of the smartest in the...
smart in some ways, but very inexperienced in others, as we will see in episode 3. Before that, though, at the end of 2, we see a bit of a reveal with Rob in Traitor Tower. So he goes up to the tower, and he, reveals the robe to Carolyn and Bob and Danielle, and they are not too happy to see him.
Oh yeah, they would. If I were them, I probably would be like, man, yeah,
God,
what the hell?
This guy.
I know. You can never be rid of him.
Freaking Rob.
Yeah.
Not only I could, because he is at once a dangerous ally and tough competition down the road. I think that's why they're just a little bit dubious, because at some point they probably know they have to get rid of him.
Or be killed by him.
Or be killed by him, because he is such a shrewd gamer.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, and he doesn't seem that happy to see them either. And
I think he says, awkward. Oh, wow, these people, I don't know why I have to work with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we find out that Bob the drag queen, he wants to kill Iron. The others say no, and he just threw up a big fuss, a big drama about I will hear no other way, this is the way I want it done. He's very temperamental.
Yeah, so this is episode 3 now, isn't it? And basically, I wrote it down what he says. He says, this plan is literally flawless, and I will hear no other answers. Wow.
He's going to be hard to work with.
He's going to be hard to work with. Anybody that has ever said anything like that, wow. This guy does not work with other people in his day-to-day, I guess, as a drag queen. This is tough to work with. What would you say if someone said this plan is literally flawless and I will not work or hear any other answers? This is tough.
This is tough. I think if I
It's
was
almost bullying.
Yeah, it is. I think he's just using a lot of his forceful personality to try and intimidate people.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But if I was one of the traders, I would just be like, okay, you know what? He's going to self-destruct very quickly.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, we can offer him up as a sacrifice very early on in the game.
Yeah.
He's going to.
You have to do this because he's too much. He won't
too
let.
much.
But I think Rob handles it quite well. You can't meet fire with a guy like this. And I think Rob is just like, okay, let's bring it back. Would you be open to this? I don't hate that idea. This is where I've seen Bob maneuver in the past quite well with big personalities. Like Russell Hantz and so on. You know, he can handle these big personas and absorb a lot of their energy well, and you know, Bob
we're not
is such
reacting
a big
to it.
personality. So,
he is.
Yeah, cute squirrel shot. And so the next day
At breakfast table.
Who had the best look at the breakfast table?
Oh, okay. So I have to say, Bob Harper.
Yeah, Bob
He came in
Harper.
dressed very well. I mean,
Yeah.
you liked his outfit as well.
Guy's got nice threads. What can I say? Yeah, he dresses really well.
Yeah, he does.
And I liked what Ciara Miller was wearing.
Yeah, she actually always dresses really well too.
Classy, but like funky.
But still stands out.
Yeah, still stands out.
Yeah.
And then we have Dolores.
We have Dolores. I was looking at my notes. I was like, yes, there's someone else. Yeah. So it's okay. So Dolores.
How should we describe this?
Is wearing I think like a cream jumper with like a cutout, like a heart cutout. Yeah. So that's what she's wearing.
Woo! It's basically classy and the opposite. The word for not classy and sexy, whatever that word is, all at once. So she's wearing a turtleneck sweater with
Which
a
is very,
cutout
very covered up.
of her cleavage in the shape of a heart. It's like, wow, you could only find this on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills or maybe in Montmartre in Paris. Like, this is, wow. Only LA reality stars would wear this.
Yeah.
Where do you get this jumper, man?
Yeah, I know. Like, listen, like, I think it's like, I mean, like you said, okay, it's
You need
like,
confidence.
you need confidence.
To pull that off.
And it's funny, like, listen, they're housewives. They're gonna be like, you know, dressed up, you know, like quite outrageously, and it gets a little bit of fun to the show. I have to say, I don't mind it so much, but I do find it hilarious. The one person that I think also dresses very well throughout the show is Carolyn.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I really like, she had this like one shoulder that shows off like her tattooed arm. You know, she dresses very cool, kind of like very biker, you know, like a rock chick, and it actually really suits her.
It's good to see the Survivor guys dressing decently for once too. I'm used to seeing them just wear shorts and shirts on a beach. But they're kind of getting themselves put together, which is nice. Good on you guys.
Okay, how do we feel about, okay, so we're still at the breakfast table. How do we feel about Danielle's performance?
Over the top. OTT. Is that what the kids say? OTT. Way too much. Just way too much. And you know, Rob clocks that as well. Rob, because what she's doing by saying who's coming through, who isn't coming through, she says, I think they're going to kill Bob. Look, yeah, you think that you're making yourself into a very good faithful, but by saying all this stuff so openly in front of everyone, you're also making yourself a target for the traitors. So people will suspect, why haven't you been killed? Because the great contradiction of the game is you have to play offense and defense at the same time. The contradiction of being a true faithful is you're hunting, but you would also be fearful of being too opinionated because you're afraid of being murdered if you talk too much.
Yeah, you can't be seen as being too good a faithful.
Yeah, and so she shows none of this mindfulness and inhibitions that a true faithful would see.
Yeah, so I think she's actually being quite extra. She's saying, oh look, I can't be a traitor because look at how scared I am.
Yeah.
Which you're kind of like describing, but then that's also like, why would you say something like that?
Exactly.
It's a bit weird. Secondly, she's like saying, well, like, you know, I'm worried that if they kill Brittany, like people are gonna try and pin it on me, Which is actually very true because, like, okay, in that case, since
She should
Brittany
keep
is
Brittany.
still around,
Yeah.
you know, like,
that
well,
case-
the fact that none of you two, either Danielle or Brittany, have not been killed means that maybe one of you could be a traitor.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like she's slipping up here.
Yeah.
Badly.
Yeah.
This is too much performance. She needs to maybe dial it back to about a 4 or a 3.
Yeah. Plus, she's been like crying a lot. Like
been
every
crying a lot.
she's been crying a lot.
She's being extra
Yeah,
performative. She
I
even
think
says
so.
I should be an actress, but she is good at crying. I'll give her that.
But
yeah,
maybe she might not be as good as acting as she actually thinks.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
knowing when to act. But this faithful group, not the best I've seen. I think, look, this is probably a more
Absorbed. They're very
group
interested in
in
themselves.
They probably sit around the fire talking about their, stylist and their
Manners and their
and their houses and their agents and their contracts for the next show they're going to go on after this. So maybe they're not hunting as hard as the UK, NZ, and Australia versions are.
Yeah,
Who
I think
knows?
so. I think
Who
so.
knows? Like when they're sitting around chatting around the fire, we think they're talking about who a traitor is, but maybe they're just shit talking and like, wow, yeah, did you know thing I was dating thing? Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I
That
mean?
probably
That's
is
probably
right.
what they're actually
And then suddenly
doing.
it's like, oh wait, the camera's on us.
Yeah, come
Okay,
on.
let's hunt traitors.
we better find some. We better get back to work. You know what I mean? I feel like these people have other interests. So that's just my hunch.
Because they're not super fans.
They're not super.
Yeah,
fans.
I mean,
These people
we're not super fans. Like we're fans, you know. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't. If you ask me, like like exact details, I would not know anything.
And they're just not that observant
Yeah.
about the things that are happening around them to have picked up on Danielle and Bob's behaviour. You know what I mean?
Well, they're too busy clocking out each other's outfits.
I know. That's part of the game, right? To bring such a distracting outfit that nobody looks at your mannerisms and behaviour.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, wow. And so Ian gets killed.
Oh, she's cute. I really like her. Yeah.
She looks like Iman.
She
looks
does, she
like a
does.
supermodel. Very,
Yeah.
very interesting features.
Yeah, I find that I get her and Ciara mixed up sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, like Ian, she's actually she's got great outfits too. She's made quite a big thing about her outfits. I think the first day she was dressed in this magnificent fuchsia skirt suit, and then when she got evicted, she was like, "Oh, I should have, worn something better." For this,
funny.
like for this ending.
I could see why they got rid of her though.
Yeah.
Because none of the traders probably had strong alliances to her or relationships with her. And also nobody was ever going to banish her because she's just kind of sweet and socially, just the way she is. You know what I mean? She doesn't seem deceptive.
Yeah, she doesn't seem deceptive. And plus, she's a housewife. I guess that would just cause more drama.
They're trying to break up these housewives, aren't
Yeah, okay. So after the breakfast table, we see, Caroline. We see Caroline wanted to bond with some of the Bambis. So the Bambis are this alliance of the big-eyed girls.
Younger women.
Yeah, so like
basically.
you've got 3 of them. That's Gabby, Nikki, and Trishelle. Yeah.
What a name, Chriselle. It's like
Trishelle.
Rochelle and Christina. Chriselle.
Oh, yeah.
Only in America could you come up with names like this.
Yeah. Had a little bit of trouble
My
spelling her
Kisa.
when I was writing down my notes.
Yeah. So she leaves the room, and it's like high school. As soon as she leaves the room after hugging them, and she says, "Oh, I'm hot. I'm feeling very upset." As soon as she leaves the room, well, they make an excuse to leave her. They just mock her and are like, "She's a hot mess. She's all over the place. She's messed up." Oh, I felt very bad for her, and she expresses that to Jeremy and says, everyone's picking on me. This is like high school. This sucks.
I know. I think it would be because she is so different from everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, we might all be grown-ups, but a lot of us still have very high school behaviors.
But I think this might work for her in the long run in terms of her gameplay because they're talking about her, but they're not looking at her. They're talking about her, but they're not actually seeing her. So they're just saying she's a mess. This is the one that's killing you all. And no one can see it.
Well, I think they kind
is
of admitted it
fascinating.
too because I think it was Gabby. He's like, oh, imagine if she was a traitor. None of us would actually know.
And Jeremy was like, look, if she was a traitor, we would see it straight away. Well, no one is seeing it straight away, so credit to you. Carolyn, this might be your game. There's just a childlike innocence to her that I like, but, that I find endearing and honest. But, And then we get this scene of the guys talking. So it's Dylan, Jeremy, and Wes, and they're talking about like what the movies to kill. Oh no, we get to that later. I think Dylan is being suspicious, and I think Dylan is smart. He is right that it's Bob, but his presentation is wrong.
Yeah, it is. I think so. I think.
So like he's on the right track, and he's talking to. Sorry, I mixed up with later when after the challenge, but he's talking to a group of the guys, and among them is Boston Rob, and that's the flaw of his presentation. He's openly talking about his theories to people without gauging where they are first. You got to sort of feel where people are before you just shoot your shot.
Yeah, so I think in this case, Dylan had two suspects. He said that he's the closest to finding a traitor than anyone else in the house.
Yeah.
His two suspects are Bob the drag queen and also Robin.
Yeah, I think this is the beginning of a bit of a blunder on his part in just being a bit too overt in his maneuver. I think the Siri way would have been to, or not Siri because she was a traitor, but the maybe the more subtle, deft way would have been to approach a few people one-on-one, see where they think, if they agree. What do you think of Bob? You looking at Bob? No? Okay, I'll leave you alone. Yeah, Bob can't be a traitor. Then
Or
you go back to someone else.
Or maybe if you leak it out, then you have to be very careful before you leak it out too.
Exactly.
And then if word gets back to them, you're like, okay, well, is that traitorous behaviour?
Yeah, the fact that you leaked it makes you look like a traitor. Yeah, smart.
So in a way, he is very smart because he's able to deduce that Bob the drag queen is a traitor.
But he's not a gamer.
But I think maybe in terms of presentation.
Exactly.
And debating and, like maybe kind of like going for the kill.
You
know who you have to kill,
yeah.
but you might not know how to kill.
Exactly, well put. Okay, I can't say it better than that. So, we get to a challenge, and it's like this clown fun house, and this was another nothing burger. It was like a Squid Games challenge where, they step on the glass and the glass destroys underneath them. And so basically by process of elimination, you find the right path through. But they can't get it. They don't get any money. They don't get anything done. They don't get any shields. Just another waste of time. I feel like this challenge could have been good if it was more like an escape room. And there were clues in each room that allowed you to deduce what the door was. Instead, it's just random guessing.
I think it's just people describing.
Yeah.
I think what the door is.
It was a waste of time. And there was one point where they say, okay, there's 5 stars on this door. This door has, on every door, except for this door, which has 4. So therefore, this must be the door. That's good deductive reasoning, which should have been rewarded. It wasn't. It was just random. The doors were just random. They get to another room, and there's cobwebs in the room, and one of the doors has cobwebs on it. So a rational mind would think there's a connection.
Yeah.
There was no connection. It's just random.
I
And
think
that
it
was
would have
disappointing.
been. Yeah, I think it would have been nice if we can actually see them having
out of focus, huh?
Oh.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, if we could actually see them using some deduction methods.
Exactly.
Yeah. To work out, which door it is. But like you said, maybe for the next season, maybe Peacock will hear our podcast and take that into consideration.
Yeah, and then we get after that. Anyway, not much to talk about with the challenge. Nothing really of consequence happens. But Tony, this is probably the beginning of the end of Tony.
So they're in the car going back.
Yeah, and Tony is in the back seat. And what happened during the challenge is that Bob Harper called him out and said, "Hey Tony, why don't you go first? You're a faithful. You should go first." And Tony's like, that doesn't make any sense because I want to go last because I want to win a shield. That's what makes me a faithful. And this conflict between them grows and escalates until Tony on the way back says, "Hey guys, did you see that Bob try and talk at me? And doesn't that make him a traitor?" Nobody agrees with him. This is where I think Tony made the mistake, and where maybe Bob's social game really shows well because people really like Bob in the house, especially the housewives. And Tony didn't clock that. He should have gone to the dudes and his survivor allies first.
Yeah.
Instead, he goes to Bob's allies, the Bambis.
Yeah.
They clock him, and this ends up being the beginning of his end, I think.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't think that he was going to go all the way to the end anyway. I think he was always going to be one of the first ones to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because his reputation is just too big.
True. It was always going to be tough.
Yeah, it was always going to be tough.
And so this is the part that I was going to talk about before. Dylan's saying, I'm going to bring up Robin and Bob, and we're saying that's a rookie move. It is a rookie move. Because if you take on... This is what happens at the round table. If you take on two people or accuse two people, you have two people fighting back at you that you have to debate. He should have really, at this point, taken on the advice to focus his shot on one target. And he says, yes, he acknowledges that's a rookie mistake, and he doesn't heed it, though, later on in the round table.
Yeah, that's true, unfortunately.
The interesting thing, though, is that Wes says, I play the game of not me, I don't give a which is interesting. As long as you're not the target, you're safe. And just to keep your head down. That's a smart way to play.
Yeah, but I don't know if you should say it out, though, because it makes you sound like a very bad faithful.
It makes you sound like a bad faithful. Like, you're not working to get the traitors out actively. Your mind isn't actively hustling to work.
I think so.
All right, so let's round this up quickly. So, Jeremy then quickly snitches on Dylan to Danielle, right? And goes, like, Dylan's going for you. And then...
Yep.
Yeah. Do you
this one was...
No, it was Bob. Sorry.
Yeah, Bob, yeah.
So, Bob snitches. So, blah, 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 blah. Danielle and Bob get together and say the heat is on you.
Yeah.
Bob says, like, Dylan's coming for you.
I think that was Jeremy or something. Jeremy thinks
Jeremy goes to Bob.
Yeah.
Right? And Bob goes to Danielle?
Yeah. Because Jeremy
so confusing.
I know, Jeremy.
I'm sorry, guys. We're trying to learn the names. Anyway, it's a shit show of gossip, and basically the gist of it is that Bob goes into this meeting ready to take on the pretty guy, as he calls it.
Yeah.
So any chance that Dylan had of catching Bob unawares is gone, because now Bob has a prepared defense. I think he then... We don't see this in the edit, but I think because of the words that spread beforehand, he arms himself very well.
Yeah.
With people around him, like Robin, like Jeremy, and so on, and he's very well insulated for this vote.
I think so, yeah.
Dylan goes into this taking his shot, but not being prepared. In that, like you said, you may know who you're going to kill, but you have to kill them. You have to have the ammo, and you have to have the votes.
Yeah.
So, I hope Dylan learns from this, and if he goes forward accusing people, that he gets the votes first before he goes for people, because it's so important.
Okay, yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, I think because I think with Dylan too, because he actually targeted both Bob and Robin.
Yeah.
So even though I think in the previous episode we noticed that he had floated this idea of Bob the drag queen being a traitor, Robin actually agreed with him.
Yeah.
But then in this episode, he targeted both of them. So now instead of like her agreeing with him, she's like, wait, hold on,
Exactly.
You're targeting me, like I'm innocent, so is Bob, and so it's now like 2 versus 1.
2 versus 1. Now he has each of them vouching for each other. And he's got double the people that he has to fight against. Oh, why didn't you listen to Wes, Dylan? He should have just... A few things he should have done better. As I said, he should have listened to Wes, focused his fight on one person, and built up support before he went into the room. Yeah. And not told Jeremy.
Yeah. Well, how do you find Bob's outburst at the round table?
I thought it was... Look, I thought it brought more heat on him. It made him look even more traitorous, but it was so big and intimidating, I think, to the other people that it scared them off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think it would have worked on me. I think it would have made him look more traitorous. I just would have said, you're just showing yourself to be more traitorous. This big, tantrum and scene that you're making. Because he was just using language and words that had no connection to actually making himself innocent.
Yeah, and also he seemed very worked up as well.
Very worked up.
And, you know, it could be like, well, is he getting very nervous because he actually is a traitor?
He was, yeah.
You know, I mean, we've seen that in the previous season with Phaedra
Yeah.
in the US. Like, you know, she's always been very chill, very cool.
Yeah.
But in one episode, when she was accused, she got really worked up. And
Yeah.
that's when all the votes turned towards her.
Yeah.
Because they were just like, okay, that was just something that they didn't expect. And it just felt traitorous.
Yeah, I think Dylan, had he focused his argument, had he spoken better, and even Bob Harper says later, we need to work on your debating skills. So Dylan has the intelligence, he just doesn't have the experience and the communications yet to be able to express what he wants to say. In that this dramatic diversion and deflection just makes you seem more and more traitorous. But then again, I don't blame him. Bob is a big personality. He's intimidating.
I think it would be very, very hard to win an argument with him.
It's tough. He's such a commanding. The one good line that he said that diffused the situation is that you're a big and commanding presence. You control the room, and that's why I think you would make a good traitor. And I think Bob almost had to acknowledge that because you flattered him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think the way to get to Bob is to flatter him.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that you can accuse him almost. Like, you are so good that you have to be a traitor. You're so fantastic and brilliant. Who else could have done this? You're the most brilliant one here. You almost have to be like A Few Good Men and Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. Like, I need to know the truth. You can handle it. Like, that's the only way that you can get to this guy, is to flatter him, to admit it, because he's going to use aggression every other way, I think. And
that's true. So besides Bob and Robin, Tony was the other guy that came under pressure.
Yeah, Tony had a tough time.
Yeah.
Tony had a tough time. His debating wasn't great. I think his only defense was, hey, do you think I'm a traitor? Do you think I'm a traitor? Like, it was very endearing, earnest, and open. But without any rational defense, such as I did this, I did that, I did this, you did this. You have to give them an alternative option to kill. And I think his reputation preceded him here.
Yeah.
And he didn't articulate enough evidence to the contrary or give them an alternate.
Yeah.
That combined with, as I said, with his reputation, just doomed him from the start. I didn't see how he was going to last on this show.
Yeah, so we find out that Tony got voted out. I felt like maybe quite a bit of it was because Boston Rob actually threw him under the bus and said, I gave you the shield, but you didn't talk to me the whole day. Well, what did you think of Boston Rob's side? Because I know you're a big fan.
I didn't like this from BR.
How did you feel he went?
I think this did put a spotlight on Boston Rob for saying this.
Because Tony was like, you're a sellout.
Yeah, why Boston Rob said this, I don't know. He didn't need to say this. People were already looking at Tony. He didn't need to double down, but I get that he wanted to defend Bob and he had to get out a faithful in his mind. But to go hard at Tony, who everybody knows on this show is one of your good friends historically from the show. Do you know what I mean? Or at least someone that you know better than anyone else there.
Yeah, and who also is kind of like a shield, as in like a survivor shield, in that sense where, he will get probably voted off before you know? Yeah. Like not traitor shield, survivor shield. Survivor shield.
So why he would do this, I think he didn't need to. I think it kind of exposes him. He did say that he was being deceitful either way, which may cover him back, but I think now eyes are on him because...
Yeah, once you get the label like a sellout, that's going to stick and people are going to be like, okay, wait, what else is he,
you already have your reputation. You gave him a shield one day and then you killed him the next. Like, whether he spoke to you or not, it looks weird because you guys have known each other for decades, literally.
I feel like, in this case, I feel like Boston Rob kind of put a target on himself.
Yeah, I do too. Who do you think's going next, do you think? Well, before we get to that, how about the challenge, how they have to get to the coffin?
So there's this. So instead of there being a murder, so the traitors have to put 3 names into the coffin in that little hideaway room. And, well, I thought it was interesting that Bob would even think about wanting to put Caroline's name down while she wasn't in the room.
And he's just like, she hasn't got a choice. We're going to put her in the coffin. Thankfully, Bob is the voice of reason, and he says, look...
Thankfully, Rob.
Sorry, Rob. Okay, these names, man.
Bob and Rob.
It's doing my head in, as you can tell. This episode, everyone's Bob, Rob, Tony, Dob, Knob, like, Dorinda. Anyway, he's the voice of reason and correctly says that people are going to assume that one of the three are going to be traitors. That we're going to try and put one of us amongst them to look innocent. So why risk it at all and put yourself to be seen?
Yeah.
And then Carolyn comes and then Bob doubles down on her and says, "Yeah, we're going to put you in." She's like, "No.
Yeah.
Why would that work?
I know.
That sucks."
I think sometimes he can come across as a little bit of like his behavior, a little bit bullying and intimidating.
A little bit,
yeah.
a lot of it. I think he kind of stands over these people, and I don't think that's going to work.
I know.
I don't love that, but it is what it is. I think, you know what it is? Like, it's the diva behaviour that he is used to from his show, RuPaul's Drag.
Oh, okay.
Where, you know, more drama is better, and I think he
and you kind
like,
of do need that aggression.
Yeah,
you know,
he feels he can carry it over to this show, but I don't know if it's going to work with these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then it's just a big cluster F with them running in and out of the room. Carolyn's looking for them, doing weird things, and they're just speaking very loudly. And we end on a cliffhanger with
I think supposedly, one of the faithfuls.
Gabby.
Yeah, Gabby, perhaps,
yeah.
you know, noticing that they were all in the room.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in episode 4 next week.
Yeah, so, okay, all in all, I think, you know, just to wind down the show, like, I think it's been a very eventful 3 episodes. I mean, there's definitely a lot of drama. Well, what do you think?
I think these guys aren't going to catch any traitors for a long time. That's what I think. I think unless it's by pure coincidence, I think we're going to get into maybe episode 9 or 10 before they catch someone. This is going to be tough for the faithful. I don't think this is the most investigative, perceptive, or forensic group. And this is, and that's that. Like, I think it's going to take a while for them to catch someone.
Okay, I feel like maybe either Bob or maybe Boston Rob could be up for elimination. Maybe not in the next one, but soon.
Okay.
Just because they've kind of like already have a target on them. What about like the player that stands out kind of for you so far?
I'm going to say 2 players. I'm going to say Bob Harper.
Yeah.
Seems to have very good social connections, but we haven't seen much of who he thinks a traitor is. We've seen him say who isn't a traitor, like Wells, but we haven't even seen much of like, who do you think is a traitor? And Dylan. I think Dylan's... And Jeremy as well. All 3 guys are really
Jeremy's very good
shrewd
too.
and calculating.
Yeah.
Jeremy is correct on Danielle, but wrong on Bob.
Yeah.
So he's got a blind spot for Bob, but he is sniffing around Danielle. He said, that's what I got mixed up before, is that he said that he didn't buy her tears.
Yeah.
And
which,
so,
you know, rightly so. Yeah.
She's crying too much.
Yeah. I guess for me, maybe Derek, he seems very smart. And Wes, they both seem, I guess, very good at picking up things, but not being too overt. You know, they can be very strategic and while still being social. So I think they can kind of like maybe keep themselves under the radar a little bit.
You know what it is? It's the gamers. The housewives are...
Well, we know from like previous season, was it Q... the 2 people that won, they were gamers as well from the challenge. CT.
And I've forgotten her name, but yeah, they're from the challenge. Yeah. So gamers tend to do better, well. Yeah.
I think so. I think they just have like, you know, they just, you know, get up and want to like, you know.
Yeah, and play the game. They're not there just to have a good time.
Yeah.
Does that wrap us up for week 1?
Yes, I think so. So, okay, guys, this is a wrap up, and we would just want to thank you so much for listening to the show. This is the Recreate Reality podcast.
It's a long one.
By Michael and Teresa. It's been a long episode. Thank you so much for sticking to us. If you have, you can find us on Recreate on TikTok and Instagram. That's WRECK.CREATE, where you can watch funny short clips of what we've talked about. If you like what you hear, be sure to like and subscribe to our pod. It really helps us a big deal. We are extremely grateful for any support you give. We'll be back shortly with the next Traitors episode, so stay tuned.
See you guys.